Always an adventure, right?
It's always an adventure, but here we are now getting it going. So, hello and happy Thursday. My name is Maggie, and I am here with Purse Strings. Purse Strings is now coming into this group twice a month and just bringing in some financial education. Purse Strings is all about equipping women with some financial knowledge and know-how, but then working with the right professionals when they need to put something in transition or transaction. So we have a vetted list of top tier financial professionals who love to serve the female market, and we call those our Purse Strings approved professionals. Karen is one of those professionals, and she is with us today. And I am very excited for our conversation about just how this is kind of a great restarting spot in life. But before we dive into all of that, Karen, would you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you and what you do?
Absolutely. Thanks for having me today, Maggie, and welcome to everyone. I am Karen Smith. I am actually a wealth and abundance coach, an intuitive energy healer, a business strategist, and an author. You might say, wow, how did you put that combination together? But I was in corporate America for 22 years as an executive before deciding to return to my roots of being an entrepreneur. And so I decided that I needed to take the practical pieces of money and put it with the intuitive and energetic pieces to give people something that created actual lasting results in their lives. So I am a Dave Ramsey Master Financial Coach, but I'm also a certified body code practitioner. So we work with both your practical and your energetic. And some fun things about me, I am also president of the Colorado Cattlewomen, and my family and I have a ranch here in Wyoming where we raise cattle and bison. So never a
I
dull
love
moment.
that. It does. Sounds like it. How fun.
Yeah.
I'm excited for this conversation today because when we are talking about, things to talk about, you said, oh, this is a perfect time in life kind of just to restart or regather. Can you kind of dive into that a bit more?
It is. Sometimes people have this perception of empty nester syndrome as like, oh, this is a terrible tragedy. Your children are going to be out. And what are you going to do with your life? And while you miss your children and you want them to come back, it's also a chance to take stock of where you're at with your life. And it really is a chance for you to have this beautiful new opportunity. Your age 55 to 65 are actually your 10 greatest earning years for financial growth, which is really empowering. And this is whether you are a career woman or you're a stay-at-home mom. It might be your spouse is the earning, but you have a chance to change your financial future very quickly during these last years, much more so than people give it credit for. Plus, you've already had a certain amount of life experience. You've experienced some ups and some downs. You've kind of figured some things out in your life, what you like or what you don't like, things you need to stop doing, things you need to start doing. And so use this as a potential launching off point for the next amazing 20 to 30 years of your life.
I love that. Yeah, we never really talk about how this is your max earning years. So you can do a lot with that. It can also be a challenging time, though. There's a lot of different things going on as well.
There are. You may have some children out of the home, or you may have some at home. Many of you might have kids in college, but you have a high school senior, or they're just maybe they're moving in and out because they finished college, but they don't have the job yet, or just moving in and out. Plus, you might be caring for aging parents. I'm personally doing that myself with my 85-year-old dad. So you might be taking on some care with that or having some challenges. You also might be in a life stage where maybe you've experienced a divorce or widowhood that was unexpected, or just things look very different than you ever imagined them to be. Maybe you had a 20-year career like I did in corporate, and then all of a sudden through some restructuring and some different stuff, all of a sudden you're doing a completely different job than you envisioned. And maybe you have some health challenges that you just didn't expect, and you're remapping and reorganizing to deal with those things.
Yeah, there's can be a lot of things going on, but now it seems like since you're an empty nester, it's back to focus on you, which is great. And so you really think that, which I agree, is that it's a great time to kind of reset for your dreams and your finances. And so can you kind of dive into that a little bit?
I can. There's many areas we could talk about with reset in your life, but since our topic today is money, that's what I'm mostly going to talk about today. So, first of all, if you are at a point where you really haven't saved much for retirement, maybe you're an entrepreneur or business owner like I am, and so a lot of times you have to pay all the other bills before you put anything in retirement, or maybe you just haven't put money away for a million different reasons. Regardless of that, today is the best day to start. And so if you have a 401k plan at work, please max that out, use that. Maybe you're self-employed. Well, just begin to be really intentional about saving some money. It is amazing how quickly you just get started and things will add up. This is where I call it the eighth wonder of the world is compound interest. And so anything you can do to start now and to keep building will help you out. This is also a really good time to look at the things in your financial life that you need to both start and stop doing. So maybe you've never actually really done a budget. And this can be a really good time to start doing one because your whole expenses have shifted, especially if your kids are out of the house. Maybe your grocery bill went down dramatically if you have teenage boys who move out. I know when I feeded my teenage nephew, oh my gosh, the amount of food that kid can go through.
It's unreal.
It is. I mean, thank God we raise our own meat because but it's a good time to start to build some really good financial habits. Like if you are still struggling to, when the bills come in every month, that you don't want to open up those envelopes, or you don't really know what your bank balance is, like you can go ahead and reestablish some of those really good skills now. But you can also start to evaluate, like, do you need long-term care insurance? Maybe you're beginning to think about what retirement does look like and what it doesn't look like. But it also can be a season of saying, do we need this great big house we're living in, or would we rather downsize? Or do we want to leave the state we're living in and go to a state that's friendlier on earn taxes or just ease of living or whatever it is? So you can begin to start making some of those beautiful choices and really empower yourself. It's also a great time to finish paying off all your debt, to pay off your house, and then begin to make sure you have all your documents for estate planning and health. And I would really encourage you, as someone who's had to clean up an estate in the last 3 years with my mom passing, please begin to talk to your children about what you want done and what you don't want done, even if it's an uncomfortable subject, or even things like getting another person on your bank accounts. Again, as someone who's had to clean up an estate after an unexpected death, the mess that was left because my parents didn't do much planning, please don't leave that to your children. It's the same thing too with your clutter in your house. Actually, the very first natural law of making money is order. Heaven loves order. So more wealth and abundance can flow into you if you have an orderly house and life and desk. So time to get rid of your clutter, organize your desk, and begin to also then pair that with a brand new money mindset. What do you want this time in your life to look like? If you've struggled to be a good receiver, maybe start working on that. Unpack your money story. There's all kinds of things you can do in this stage of life that you couldn't do before. So go for it. What have you got to lose?
You don't have much to lose. It's a great time to go kind of jump in 2 feet first. And so let's kind of dive into these like money beliefs that's always a huge barrier for people. And they're kind of different at this stage in life, I think.
There are. Yeah. And it's amazing how we tend to think, oh, well, money beliefs that's for 20-year-olds. But if you really think about, what idea do you currently hold about what this time in your life should look like? Is it, oh, well, I'll just drift along and support my kids and do this. And when they're out of college, then I'll take care of this. Or when we've paid for their college, I'll start doing retirement. It's like, no, they're responsible for their own college and payments. You need to take care of your own retirement. And this is something I can't emphasize to you enough. If you have an unspoken belief that it is your children's job to take care of you when you get old, you need to sit down and figure out if that's actually realistic, because that is not a child's job. Now, if parents and children have made that agreement, that's fine. But if you are expecting that, but you have not told your kids that that's your expectation, you're going to be in for a big surprise. And yes. So if you have a mindset around that, you need to look at that. Same thing of like, what do you actually need for retirement? So many times on these commercials we see, they're like, oh, retire with a vineyard in Italy. Well, maybe you just want a little log cabin by the lake and you want to fish, or you want to be able to hang out at the library, really start to begin to think about what makes a great retirement and what do you need to fund with that. Maybe you want to travel, but you've never looked into what those trips cost and how to do it. The other thing is don't wait. If you want to travel, you want to go do something, buy a different house, start a business, do it now. Again, these are all money beliefs that we hold, like, oh, I'll travel when I'm 65. Well, what if you have a health event that no longer allows you to travel? We have to break these beliefs now. It's the same thing of, if you have made some mistakes with money, would you please teach your children a different way? If you haven't really taught your children much about money, don't be afraid to tell them, how do you learn from your mistakes, or to really believe, like, are you going to enter your best years of your life, or do you see yourself in decline now? So many times in our system of thinking, we think, oh, well, I'll work until I'm 65 and then I'll like scale back, or I'll retire. But the reality is this is a perfect time for you to advance and to create. So if you want to start a business, what's holding you back from doing that? Or if you want to travel or buy a house to flip, then do it. Like, this is not a time to sit back and be like, well, I got my kids raised, so now what else is there other than wait to grandkids? Like, no, go after your life right now. This is also a great time to ask yourself, do I have a second source of income? And if you don't have a second source of income, why not consider a way to make some money? Maybe you used to work in marketing in corporate America. Then you chose to stay home and raise your children, which is a beautiful, beautiful gift. And now you're like, well, I'd like to do a little bit. Why not consider being a freelancer and offer marketing skills to people? But do something that creates a second source of income for you. Because one, it'll help you build retirement savings or fund a travel fund, or just give you something to do. Because remember, mindset can be in every area. And if you feel poor in your skills or in your relationships, you will also feel poor in your money. And that's one of those mindset things that we really want to work at uprooting, is any of that like poverty thinking that we have at this stage in life.
And that's huge, especially for women, and one of the main reasons Barb and I started Purse Strings is we'd see so many women bagging groceries, of retirement age in Target or something like that. And so I know so many women fear that they're going to be that bag lady, which no, let's take these proactive steps today. That's why we have all these professionals. But part of it is that mindset. If we think about it hard enough, we could get ourselves in that position. But if we, think very abundantly and take some other actions, there's plenty of ways to prevent that as well.
There are. And maybe you're at a stage in life where you feel like financially secure, but now you're feeling a little bit bored. Go and use all your skills for something good. Maybe you volunteer somewhere. Maybe you offer to read at your kid's school, or you finally get involved in an organization that means something to you, or you'd like to leave a legacy with that. But yeah, it's that poverty thinking really gets us that way. That's also why I mentioned understanding like your estate documents. I can't tell you how many times I work with clients where one of the spouses passed away, and all of a sudden, and that was the person who was responsible for the money. If your spouse or your partner have handled the money and you're not really sure, even if it's a little bit scary to you or you're not sure how to do it, just start asking those questions, asking what you should know. And then don't engage in anything in fear. We don't want to think or act in any way out of fear. And a helpful acronym with fear is it's false evidence appearing real. So if you have a money fear, like, oh my gosh, if I open up these bills, or if my husband shows me the budget and what if there's not enough money, sit down and journal about, why do you feel like there's not going to be enough money? And maybe that's a real practical thing because it's true, but maybe it's just your thinking. How many times have you ever actually gone without a meal or without a roof over your head? And what kind of abundance legacy do you want to leave to your children or your grandchildren? I'll give you an example from my own life. I remember taking my mom and dad out for my dad's birthday, and my mom was clutching these 2 coupons, and we went to a fast food restaurant. She's like, well, this is what we're getting for birthday breakfast. And I'm thinking, why don't we just go out to a really nice restaurant and celebrate my dad's birthday? We don't know. My parents are in their 80s. I don't know how many years we're going to have left. And she was so insistent that we use these buy one, get one free coupons. And she was really giving off this energy of like, well, we're so poor, this is all we can afford. But I kid you not, when she passed away and she dropped dead suddenly, I went and looked at their bank accounts thinking they had nothing because of I saw her behavior. And when I saw that bank balance, it almost made me cry because they could have bought whatever meal they wanted.
Right.
And I thought, you know what? Why didn't we go out for the meal that would have celebrated our family and my parents' diligence in saving and being good stewards? And instead, my mom was just held in that fear of poverty. And that's what we experienced that day. And that's a memory I have now. Well, that's not the legacy I want to leave my family. So really be thinking about how you're speaking about money, thinking about money, and even telling your children or grandchildren about that. Because what legacy do you want to leave with them with abundance and money?
And I think that's a very interesting point to bring up about, having and being aware of your own money and either working with a professional to kind of know where you're at and what your plan is. Because as much as you might want to pass on a legacy, you don't need all that money to be passed on. It's part of living your life today.
Right.
And it's always that important balance of planning for tomorrow, but you have to live for today because we are here today and tomorrow is not guaranteed.
It is. Right. And I always tell people, like, invest in yourself. Maybe you've already invested in the stock market or you've done some different things. But if there's a class you want to take, or if your kids are doing, say you have young grandkids and they're like, hey, grandma and grandpa, we want you to come and be with the kids and take a summer vacation with us. Go do it if you are able to, because what if that's the last opportunity that you have before some health problem happens and you can't go? I hear from people all the time about their regrets and the things that they didn't do. You don't want to do that. I think about my corporate years. I traveled extensively. I've been to 32 countries. And I'm so glad I did that, because now I'm in a stage of life where I'm caring for an elderly parent. I can't really leave and go do that in the same way that I could 10 years ago. So I'm really grateful I took those opportunities, because while I'm in this season, then I have those good memories to look at, and I don't have any regrets either.
Right. Those are all great points. And so it is a great time just to kind of take a step back and think, what do I want? What do I want the future to look like? And what's kind of holding me back from those spots,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you still have a dream in your heart, like maybe you still want to write a book, or you'd love to own your own little shop, or you would like to be able to retire your husband, or like I work with some military spouses where their husband has worked so hard for 20 to 22 years and they want to be able to cover all of the income for the family while that first couple of years of retirement, while their husband gets out of the military and acclimates back into civilian life. And they just want him not to have to worry about how to put food on the table during that time. And so, if you still have a dream, go after it. Even if you don't yet know how to make it happen, every day begin to visualize that and journal that and go after it. Because remember, abundance is a way of life, and it's a way of thinking, and it's a way of acting, and a way of choosing. This doesn't necessarily mean driving a luxury car or having a fancy watch, but it's just saying, looking for opportunity and possibility everywhere, instead of saying, well, I can't afford that, or I can't do that. Just saying, what would it take for me to afford that? Or how could I make that happen? Or what needs to change in me? And Maggie, you brought up a great point about, like, really think about, what are you passing along to your kids about your money energy? Like, do you have a negative perception of money and how it works in your life? Really be thinking about that, and make sure your kids know that all things are possible. It's just how we choose to believe about it.
And yeah, that's something, people are always working on every day, is trying to remember that it is all possible. We just have to be willing to work at it and really believe in ourselves as well. Mm-hmm. And so, it seems like a great opportunity kind of to reset and, refresh and get back at it. With what you do, how can you help people in this process?
Right. In fact, this is one of my favorite stages of life to help people with, because that people have just been through some stuff. So they're a little more mature. They've had their ups and downs, but they still know that they've got a lot of life left. I mean, you got 30 or 40 years left to live. So it always amazes me when I get certain people at this age and they're like, oh, my life is done. And I'm like, oh my goodness, you could, you could create another 30 or 40 years. Like, it's amazing. And so the work that I do with people is pretty much twofold. First, we take a look at your practical things. Like if you really don't have a plan for retirement, or you don't have a budget done, or you need to pay off debt, or maybe you've had a failed business and you need to figure it out, that we work with the very practical pieces. But more importantly, we work on the energy piece. And these are all the old beliefs that you have, even trapped emotions that you have around traumatic money events. Like maybe you remember having to get school lunch paid for, and that's always kept you in this lack of abundance. Or maybe you lost a business and now you feel like you can't produce the money you need, or that your parents died in poverty, or that you don't want to go to a nursing home, just whatever it is. And we unpack those stories and we unpack the energy around them. We teach you a new way of thinking and we give you a new plan to actually execute on. So it's a balancing of both the practical and the energetic, and you get real results that actually last and are life-changing. And more importantly, they can change your family tree. So if you grew up in poverty and abundance, it's a way to help prevent passing that along to your children. Maybe you grew up in wealth and abundance and you see your kids not being willing to work or to take on those things. And so we work with that, the opposite energy as well, to bring people back more into balance.
And I just love how, there's so much time that we spend raising kids or taking care of others. And some of those things that, those barriers that we still have not broken, you could still do today. And the next 40 years could be wild. I mean, it could be your best yet, which is amazing that the best is still yet to come. But breaking really down some of that is amazing. And the effects that it has on your family can, like you said, be exponential.
It is. In fact, when I interview my wealthier clients, so people who are already millionaires or multimillionaires or business owners, and they've built 30 plus years, I always ask them, like, when did you really make decisions that really shifted your life? Like, not just a tiny bit, but like really big. And they're always like, right in that 40 to 50 to 60, like, I finally had some opportunities, or I took a risk and I said yes to something. And I didn't know everything that how it was going to turn out, but I knew that I could handle whatever came along. Or they said yes to buying a piece of property, or whatever it was. And it really did completely shift the money game that they had for themselves and for their family. But they always kept that belief that there was more that was possible. And, that's the beautiful thing about where we live here in America too, is you have opportunity every day. And, you're not living under an oppressive rule. It's really your own ability to shift things, and how you perceive things has more to do with your success and abundance than anything else. And if you need some time during this time to just like calm down after raising your kids and kind of reset like what you actually want to do, then take the time to do that. But if you really know that you're called to write that book, or you're really called to build a real estate empire or whatever, go for it. You will. It's like Wayne Gretzky, the hockey star, used to always say, you will miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
True.
And we have become so like, quote unquote, safe in our world anymore that nobody risks anything. But I always think about, living here in the West, I think about the pioneers who left everything, and they got on a horse and wagon and they came without email, phones, like security, but they came.
Like a compass?
Yeah.
Like they didn't even know where they're going.
Exactly. But you know what? They took the risk and they did it. And because they made that choice, I have different choices today too. And so never, ever stop realizing that you could be the person who completely changes your family tree, even at this stage in your life. I'll give you an example from my father's life. He grew up so dirt poor that really whatever they hunted that day was what they ate for dinner. And even at 85, he keeps a few coins in his pocket because it makes him feel wealthy. And so he's chosen to change his money story and create a solid future for himself. But that's because he shifted his mindset, and then he took action. Because as we shift our mindset, it will prompt us to take what I call inspired action. Too many people are just running around like out here in the West, we call it like running around like a chicken with your head cut off. But when you have say you're called to write a book, then take that inspired action every day. Write 5 sentences, write a blog post, write a letter to a friend, do something. But every day that you do something, you infuse that with energy. And anything that we give energy to continues on. So think about when you're riding a bike and those first pedal overs, it's a lot of effort and energy to get that in motion. But once you're in motion, it's pretty easy to stay in motion. So if you do want to write that book, every day that you write, it's you pedaling and putting that in motion. And then once you're in the habit of doing that, it keeps sending that energy like, I'm an author, I'm a writer. And next thing you know, you're going to meet other people who are writers and authors, and perhaps the publisher or a course on how to write will drop into you. And so that inspired action then creates that abundance in your life. So take the action, do something.
I love it. I have goosebumps. I mean, it's just empowering just to, you live your life, and there's so much, you think what others are going to think of you, that first writing you do, you're like, this sucks. Like, yeah, the first writing is not going to be perfect. That's not going to be the first page of your book. I'm telling you that right now. But like every single day, it gets so much better. And you just think about anything else that you've kind of worked at in your life and how you've seen that progress. It's going to be the same thing. But yeah, getting started is the hardest part.
It is. And it's the same whether you're starting a brand new budget. Maybe you're a person who's been doing a budget and you've got that well handled. I also work with a lot of people. They get to this point in their life and they have more money than they've ever had in their life because the kids are gone or their careers are doing well. And then they're a little bit like, okay, I've funded all my retirement accounts. We know where we want to retire, but now I've got this money. What do I do with it? How do I invest? What do I need? Do I create a business? Do I give it away? What do I want to do with it? And so I work with a lot of people. I've got one client, he's created massive success for himself, but he didn't even know how to enjoy it because he still had this perception that other people were going to judge him for that. Even though all of his wealth has come from serving others, he created an amazing product that has changed people's lives. And yet he still couldn't allow himself to enjoy the fruits of his labor. So maybe you're in that position. And maybe you're like, gosh, I'd really like to finally have that sports car. Or in this case, when my client, he wanted his own little airplane. He was a pilot, but he had never allowed himself to buy a little plane to fly himself to different places. And so that's what we ended up working on and teaching him how to live in the abundance that he had created. We always tend to think, well, gosh, here's someone who's super wealthy. What do you mean he can't enjoy it? But he was still hung up in that money energy of thinking about other people's perceptions. And he didn't want people to criticize him for being wealthy, even though he had earned it all. And so helping him shift his mindset so he could actually enjoy his wealth. And the cool thing is now he uses his plane to fly to places where he donates his time and he helps people drill water wells to bring water to areas. And so
he's just a giver.
Yeah, he's found this beautiful balance of enjoying the abundance that he created, but also continuing to serve others. And it has created this beautiful cycle in his life where he has also keeps attracting more money because he's keep putting out this good energy. So, really ask yourself, what energy am I putting off with money and abundance? Like, am I able to receive? Because you think about, it's so funny. We think about all this money we save in retirement, but then I see people who won't spend any of the money they save for retirement. And they'll tell their kids, oh, well, I can't go out to eat, or, well, I can't meet you here. And we just don't want the money to run out. And I'm like, do you want your grandkids to remember that you were present, or that you were the person who was like, I can't do anything? Now, to be fair, if you really can't afford it, you need to be able to use your voice and say, hey, can we go do X, Y, Z instead? You need to find that. But don't take opportunities from yourself. Sometimes we have this poverty in our spirit, and it ends up being reflected in the choices we make, in our checkbook, in how we take care of ourselves, the things that we allow ourselves to have. It's like one of my clients, she would only shop at thrift stores, not because she necessarily liked it, but because she felt like, as the stay-at-home mom, she couldn't spend any of her husband's hard-earned money. They needed it for the rest of the household. But it created a poverty thinking cycle for her, that when her husband did want to buy her nice things, she wouldn't receive them, which then negatively affected their relationship. And so teaching her how that it was okay to shop at a regular store for clothes, even if she still bought them on sale. And it shifted the energy in her relationship with her husband, because she could finally receive the nice things that he worked for. And he saw her as incredibly valuable. He's like, I could have success at work if you didn't stay home. Like, you are equal co-creator of success. So let's enjoy this abundance together.
I love that. I love that. I think this has been a great conversation. I even feel more inspired, but yeah, this is a new time that can be really exciting. You can break down some barriers and really live that life that you've always dreamed. Highest earning years, highest, and there's just so much potential that's there that let's tap into it. Let's make it the best life since we only have one of them.
Yes. And just go for it. What do you have to lose? Seriously, what do you actually have to lose? So live your best life. This is an amazing gift you've been given to be at this time in your life. And so make the most of it, because remember, someday your children and your grandchildren will remember how you handled this time. You are teaching them how to live. And so make sure you do a good job of it.
I love it. I love it. I think we'll just end on that note. But if anyone, wants to work with Karen or has more questions, her email's at the bottom here. She's also one of our Purse Strings approved professionals, so you could check her out on our site, pursestrings.co. And we'll be back here in a couple of weeks with some more education. But until then, let's go live our lives.
I love it. Well, thank you so much, Maggie. And thank you all
Thank
for
you.
your time and listening today. And I would just encourage you, go for it. And we're here to support you if you need it.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Karen. We'll talk to everyone soon. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.